life. And my first guest here is Tricia.
I can use my life as a real life example. I don't care. I'll put it on blast.
Well, we have Amanda.
And I felt like he reminded me of that. You first need to learn to lean on me before I'm going to send you someone to lean on.
But the church can be quick to ship people together.
What I'm hearing from you too, it's like we could almost get just like reduced to our singlehood instead of like I'm a whole person with a lot to offer, and the Lord can use me by myself, and then one day He'll use me differently in a marriage.
Trying to find that balance of like being so happy for the things that your friends have in your life while still honoring the feelings of like kind of being sad about not having it yet.
Just because you think it's good intention doesn't mean it's necessary for the journey.
I appreciate a good, strong friend. If I say something negative about myself out loud, that they have the courage to be like, absolutely not. Do not say that about yourself. Like,
But like learning to do things on my own helped build that confidence. There's still things where I'm like, I'm not about to go get my oil changed by myself.
So I have some very strong opinions about that.
Let's go.
I love that. Okay, what are they?
I should have started with that question.
No, it's okay. So
Welcome to Life Together podcast. My name is Joel Vargas, and I'm the connection pastor here at Together Church. And if this is your first time with us, we want to say thank you. And we want to encourage you to like and subscribe to our channel here. But for today's episode, I'm incredibly excited for this. We're going to talk about something deeply personal, but as well as something that's misunderstood, not just in culture and society, but in church as well, and it's singleness. For many, singleness can feel like they're waiting, they're missing out. There's some failure attached to it, or they're just lonely. But we believe that God has so much for even people that are walking a journey of singleness, and that God wants to reveal to them. So we're going to walk this out, and we have two incredible guests that are going to help us understand certain perspective in their journey and how that looked like and how God has spoken to their life. And my first guest here is Tricia. She leads our tech team. She does everything creative you can see in our church, all the content, everything, even produce this podcast, not just this one, and edits it. And she just has incredible insight of her journey and her walk in singleness. But as well, we have Amanda. Amanda has an incredible testimony, but she leads our single ladies group here at TC, that we continue to hear some amazing things that are happening here. So we're excited. I'm excited. I hope you're excited to dive into this topic. We just did our Marriage Myth podcast last month, and we said, man, we got to talk about singleness. Before we talk about Jesus next month, we got to talk about those that are walking through singleness, and it's very important for the church to talk about these topics because it's important to know that there's not only a select group of people that make the church. Everyone has their specific journey. Everybody walks through different ways, and just because it doesn't look like what we think doesn't mean they're not part of the church. So we value every single person that's walking through a single journey, and we know that God has a calling for you and a purpose for everything. So hopefully this blesses you. But we want to jump right in and start this up and kind of begin with a question that maybe you're already asking, but I want to know, and we want to know is, tell us about your life experience and how being single has been a part of that story.
So I am 29 years old. I'm a single mom of 3. And I actually, I married my high school sweetheart whenever I was 20. And I was with him for 11 years. And I would say the biggest piece of my story is that it's very important in the, before marriage, the Bible talks about, being equally yoked. And I really tried to exercise my own will in that scenario. And it, it ended with a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. And so God, I feel like, has allowed me to use this testimony to help other people, before they get there, or help them walk through similar pains that I went through in that scenario. So if my story can just help one person, feel a little less alone, then I'm happy to share it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm single. I've been single most of my life. I've dated on and off here and there, but for the most part, I've never been married. I've never been engaged, but that's just how my life has looked.
Yeah, and different journeys, right? How you are in singleness right now, but regardless of how you walk out singleness or how you got or still walking out singleness, every journey has its highs and lows. And if we're really honest, you know, a lot of people won't understand, especially for, I feel like married people on the other end. If you've been married long enough, you're like, you know, that was that time, you know, maturity, growth, should eventually find their person already. But you're attaching this preconceived notion of what people should do or now impose your thoughts. But being single can be hard, but it also can be rewarding. Yeah. But I really want to talk about first is, let's start with what has been the biggest challenges of being single for you?
I think for me, with my specific story, was I hadn't really been single in my adult life. So, you know, I was with my high school sweetheart when we were 16. So it was really like a culture shock for me, is not being in a relationship. I think a lot of my identity was built around that. If I'm being completely honest, I mean, I grew up in the church. I've been a believer all my life, but I really built a lot of my adulthood around being married, especially being married so young and building a family and all those things. So I think that for me, it was just a complete 180, and I was experiencing emotions and feelings that I had never went through before. I'd never lived on my own. You know, like I said, we got together really young. I moved out with my family, moved in with my husband. Yeah. So it was just a really big shock to my system. And I think I kind of floundered in that for a while. And I was seeking relief in like, trying to rush and make a bunch of friends, even if they weren't the right friends. Or, you know, trying to scroll my way out of my feelings and out of my pain. Wow. And I feel like through this journey, God has really tried to show me, you know, how to have a deeper intimacy with him. Yeah. And he led me to actually Hosea chapter 2, where he talks about leading her, Israel, into the wilderness and speaking kindly to her. Yeah. And he'll give her hope out of the, you know, valley of destruction. And I really feel like that's what he's been doing for me in this season, especially early on. He's like, I just want you to like be me, just me and you, and understand that we can have this really intimate relationship. Even though I've been a believer, I'd never, like, I think I kind of overput my relationship in that position, and God was trying to show me how to have like that deeper intimacy with him.
That's awesome. Tricia.
I think mine's the opposite, but probably because I'm not married. Yeah. I think for me, one of the biggest challenges that I have struggled with has been, I don't want to say comparison because it's like comparing apples and oranges, but one of the things that really sticks out is like you see all of your friends get married. I've been in I think 13 weddings at this point. And walking through all of those like exciting journeys with your friends and wanting to celebrate them, but then going home to a very empty apartment and not being able to like process that really with someone. So a lot of, I think my end is not having that person sometimes feels very by myself, I guess. Yeah. And yeah, I would say comparison in the waiting game, essentially. Like, hey, all of these people, a lot of my friends are married. A lot of my friends have kids. A lot of my friends have a house, which I think a lot of people compare no matter what the situation is. Yeah. But really like getting down to the, all of these highs and lows are happening in my friends' lives, and I don't really have somebody to share that with. Yeah. Similarly, I would say even, I don't want to like harp on COVID or anything, but during COVID, I had really, really bad anxiety, really, really bad depression, and having to sit with that myself versus like having somebody there to like help process through that was a lot, which I've learned a lot in that, but learning to be like your own person and your own identity and secure in like who you are has been quite the challenge. With and trying to find that balance of like being so happy for the things that your friends have in your life while still honoring the feelings of like kind of being sad about not having it yet.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, like I said earlier, culture kind of paints singleness, and I feel like now with social media, it's really ramped with like a lot of let's go TikTok real quick, and everybody showing their single life or going on a date by myself solo, and and kind of you get stuck in the TikTok kind of algorithm, and then you see a lot of comments of even married couple, I wish, and this and that. There's two sides. You're not understanding the struggle, the hardship that it is to walk through singleness, that you're trying to figure out life and trying to get to that next, and you don't know, and anything, you don't know what God's bigger plan is of everything. Right. So, and you try to kind of label, well, eventually, yes, this is it. But God says, I don't reveal those things. No. But I do believe that God meets us in our hardest places. That God will swoop into those moments that feel like difficult, like COVID, and you feel alone, but then God will be the everything you need. So we can talk about the hardships, even in life, married, not married, singleness, widow, whatever that looks like. But what would you say being single has taught you, and how that's helped you grow as an individual? Because you're not the same, would say, years from the past.
No, I think for me, what I've learned is probably unique, probably not something that you hear a lot, or maybe there's other people that can relate to this. Yeah. I think being single has taught me that a lot of my life I've actually lived as like a chameleon, where I've been, not fake. I don't think that's the right word, but more so like I learned how to be what everyone else needed me to be. And I really lost sight of, who I am, like who God made me to be, the personality he gave me, the gifts he blessed me with to advance his kingdom. I really lost sight of all of that during that relationship. And so when I became single, I was like, oh, when I would get glimmers of, who God made me to be, I'd be like, oh, wow, no, that resonates. That feels good. So I guess it's been a journey of just learning who I am in Christ, and not just, my salvation, because I've had that piece, but, what is the unique picture he's painted me to be, to reach a unique crowd for him, for his advancement of his kingdom. So that's been like just relearning who I am.
That is good.
I already forgot the question.
She's like, so that was so good.
I was talking about the chameleon thing, and I was like, oh my goodness, I do that too.
I got stuck on that too. I was like, that was good. That was good. So the question is, what would you say being single has taught you, and how has that helped you grow as an individual yourself?
Sure. I think that I am really good at being independent. And for a long time, it took a while for me to get that way, where I wouldn't even go get groceries by myself. I wouldn't want to do laundry in the laundry room by myself. It was a very, very scary thing. And part of that is like growing up, I had a big family, and then I moved here to do the lead program. So I was living in a house with a million other people, and you never had any time to yourself at all. So like these little tiny things, like driving myself to work, or going to get groceries, or grabbing a coffee in the drive-thru, or whatever it was really, really difficult for me, which I know sounds so wild. But
now there's someone that says, like, yes, I get it.
No, I'm like, yes, no, right, absolutely.
Yeah.
But like learning to do things on my own helped build that confidence. There's still things where I'm like, I'm not about to go get my oil changed by myself. Somebody else can do that for me.
You gotta outsource something.
Exactly. But learning to be confident in who I was made to be, not just as like a daughter or a sister or a friend or whatever, but as an individual, I think has been incredibly helpful and helped me be more of a confident person. Because it's like, oh, I actually can do hard things, even though society like essentially tells you like, hey, you're supposed to be married, the boy's supposed to do this, the girl's supposed to do this, blah, 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 whatever. It's, hey, no, actually you can pick up groceries by yourself. You can go and do laundry by yourself in the laundry room. You can do all of these things. You don't need another person. it's nice to have another person, but it's not a requirement for life.
Yeah.
No, and what that made me think of was in the Corinthian letters, how Paul talks about like each person walking according to how the Lord has called them, and how he does kind of elevate. You know, he wishes everybody could live like him. He was saying not to be restrictive for those who have that desire to be married and things like that. But he was elevating, you know, whenever we are single, you know, God can, he gets our full devotion. Yeah. And that's where that confidence can come from, because we just have that confidence in him and in our relationship with him. But yeah, Paul talked about everybody walking according to how they're called. And I think just being honest and asking God, you know, where are you calling me is a very courageous thing to do.
Yeah, and I think there's a principle to that, what you're speaking about, learning these things that at once you're like, well, I need someone else to help me with this versus I can do this. And I think that is something that even people that are about to walk into marriage should reevaluate in themselves, because it goes to the concept of, well, if I have another person that is my savior, the one that helps me with everything. No, it's two people that can do things independently, but coming together, then it magnifies it. It makes it a little bit better, right? But then now your soul, everything is dependent on that person. But if that person fails, everything crashes.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I actually have a funny story on this topic.
Love funny stories. Let's go. Yes.
Yeah. So I live on land and I have an extremely long driveway. Okay, to get the trash to the end of the road is like, it is my nemesis. Every Wednesday I have to hype myself up. But very early in my singlehood, I had the worst thing happen. The wheel broke off. But the trash was so full that there was no way I could just like let it go. You know, it was so full. It had to go down. So I'm fighting this trash can down this road. And I scream out loud. My neighbors probably think I'm insane. I was like, Lord, send me someone to lean on. And I swore I heard in my spirit, you first need to learn to lean on me. Literally screaming about this trash can that I'm pulling down the driveway. And I felt like he reminded me of that. You first need to learn to lean on me before I'm going to send you someone to lean on because of what you're saying.
That is so good. I can just imagine that, and like how God would use that spiritually. Some of us have so much garbage that when the wheel pops off, we give up. Then we're like, oh, well, if it popped, that's where I'm leaving it, and I'll let it stack. But God says, no, lean on me, and I will help you carry it. But, and I guess that's a good way to think about it as well for a lot of people that are looking for marriage. You're single, and you're walking through that journey. Like, I want to get married. Great. But what's in your garbage bin that you haven't taken out because the wheel popped up or life has happened? And God's saying, lean on me, and I will empty that so you're ready for whatever that next season looks like. Absolutely. So I think those are the things that you learn and you grow. Every season you learn and you grow. But I want to talk about identity and healing. And I think that's an important part of that journey, right? I think some people can have this misconception that single people are just sitting and waiting all the time. They're like tick-tock, looking at their watch and be like, yeah, I'm waiting for the person. No, there is an active identity and healing growth that's going on. So the question I have, and I want to hear from you guys, is how would you say being single has affected your self-esteem? If it has, how has God challenged that thought about yourself?
So do you want to
go ahead?
Okay. So just from like my scenario with the divorce situation, I would say my self-esteem initially took a really big hit. And I think that anybody's been through a breakup can kind of relate to that, or maybe not. But for me, I internalized it as, well, I was just defective, or I wasn't good enough, or I just couldn't meet, the standard, or fill in the blank, So my self-esteem took a really hard hit in the beginning. I felt worthless in a way, if I'm being totally vulnerable. I felt like, what's the point of kind of anything that God has put in my path? I'm like, I'm not worth it. So, why even try? But I appreciated something that he did. He actually sent me, so I know I lead a group now, but he sent me a couple of women in my life during that season that just spoke life into me and really reminded me of my identity in him. And they were a lifeline during that time, because it got really dark, if I'm being completely honest. And even, talking about society, the game of comparison that we're always playing, I even felt called to get rid of my social media because of how it kind of fed that. And that's a very individual walk, but the Lord can send people in your path that really can lift you up whenever you are very, very down. But my self-esteem took a big hit, but it's on the mend.
It's continuously healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It very similarly, sometimes not being married, and I'll be 34 when this comes out. Being 34, I had to think about it. My birthday's next week.
Oh my gosh, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I guess it's late birthday now, but
yes.
Being older and being single, it's like being the last kid picked for the dodgeball game type of a thing.
Wow.
It's like, is there something wrong with me? Was I not good enough in this situation? Am I not enough of a Proverbs 31 woman XYZ, whatever? Did I miss my chance by not jumping in further with this relationship or not? Like, is there a one that got away type of a thing?
Wow.
And then the whole, being by yourself, sometimes it's really fun and great and whatever, but then when you're left alone with your thoughts and you have to evaluate yourself and you're holding up a mirror. I think Miss Jamie talked about the bathroom mirror in one of her podcasts, where all of a sudden you flip on the light and you see everything. Sometimes when you're isolated like that, it's like that's the only mirror that you see. And you have to take a step back and see the big picture. But like you were saying, community is so incredibly important, where some people have to literally come in your bathroom and tear you away from that mirror. Or say, hey, maybe, like, there are really, really amazing photographers, and there are photographers that, just do it for fun or whatever. And when you have an amazing photographer and you get to see yourself through somebody else's lens, that is so incredibly important too. So yeah, self-esteem definitely takes a hit, but most of the time it's usually when I'm isolated and I don't have somebody there to give me advice or speak life into me, like you were saying, or this, that, and the other.
And on that note too, it with that community and how it can be so important, even in your moments of isolation, I think that you have to be careful too, because the enemy can also send you people that will feed the negative thoughts. So that's where, like, discernment really has to come in. And when your self-esteem is already in a low place, I feel like discernment or making those decisions can feel harder because you're already, lacking that confidence. But I would encourage anyone to really ask yourself, are even the friendships in your life, are they truly building you up? Are they truly helping you grow spiritually? Or are they feeding that insecurity? Like when you're holding up that mirror, are they saying, oh yeah, look at this, and I think just being honest with yourself in those situations is really important. Because I tell you what, I appreciate a good, strong friend. If I say something negative about myself out loud, that they have the courage to be like, absolutely not. Do not say that about yourself. Like that is a lie. Do not accept it. And that can help in the isolation, because it retrains your inner voice, because then you start hearing them yell at you in your head.
Right.
So true.
Correct. That voice is echoing
in your mind.
Like, all right, I want to hear it again, so I'm not going to say that. But I think, like you said, you got yourself off of social media because there was a lot of comparison game. A lot can fill our minds, right? We can play the mind game, and we are our worst enemy, especially when we're alone. Forget it. The enemy doesn't have to do the work. We do it for him. And we'll be the one. He was like, that's easy. You're already saying everything I could say, but you're doing it. But a lot of that can also be attributed to the belief that come from culture, or sometimes even from the church, and how they view us or you or singleness or that journey. And one of the biggest struggles in singleness can be loneliness versus isolation, right? Which brings us to community, which you started talking about. So we'll pivot that way. But I really want to hear your thoughts on this question. I think this is a big one. A lot of people might even either hear something different they never heard of before, or be like, yep, that's me. What's the difference between being alone and being lonely in your experience? Because some people could think it's the same thing. It could be.
It's definitely not. So I also was somebody who was like afraid of being alone. Like I said, I kind of built my whole identity around being married and always having a person there. So at first, being alone and lonely they felt very like synonymous in my life. But now that I'm further on my healing journey and like really grown in my intimacy with the Lord, when I'm alone, I don't feel lonely.
Wow, that's good.
I feel his presence. I invite his presence into my home. I play worship music in the background when I'm doing dishes and just really feel that closeness with him. Yeah. Now, there's still moments, like I don't want to be like, oh no, it's all just rainbows and butterflies over here. You know, there's still moments of loneliness, especially if I've had a really hard day and things like that. But now I can say that I can be alone without feeling lonely. And I'd like to venture to even say, and if this is going too far, I apologize. I would encourage any single person, if you are still in the season of being alone feels lonely, if that's still like synonymous in your life, I would actually encourage you not to go seeking a relationship, because then I think that's going to cloud your judgment, because you could potentially make a decision out of desperation versus one that's out of wisdom. So if you're still in that season where they're like together, I would hold off.
That's good.
I think I said this in the office earlier. I don't, generally speaking, feel lonely. I do feel very by myself sometimes. And the best way that I know how to describe it is like, we do a Christmas card from the church every year. And there are times where it's like, oh, let's do family pictures. And I'm just like, here's my headshot. Love that for me. So fun. So I would say like 85% of the time I don't feel lonely. I'm like, thank God I get to go home and hang out with my dog and read my book and watch whatever TV show I want to watch or whatever. Like, it's great.
Every married couple is like, oh, yeah.
I wish. I'm just
like, what's it like to watch a whole entire season without waiting for your partner to catch up?
I know.
That's how I live my life, guys. It's so great.
I love it.
So there are times when I feel very by myself, but for the majority, I would say I don't necessarily feel lonely. There are definitely times, like, for instance, like I was talking about earlier, at the end of a wedding when you're going home to your house and it's just you and your dog and you just got this very high rush of like emotions and being excited for other people and whatever. And then you get home and it's like, okay, this is not fun anymore.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Or you're going to like a wedding shower or whatever. And I will say this, the older that you get and the more time that passes that hasn't happened to you, sometimes it does feel like less people are going to celebrate that in your life. Because like when you're younger, it's like newer and exciting and whatever, and not a lot of people have families, or they don't have kids, or they don't do whatever. They have more free time, they have whatever. And then the older that you get, the less of that like kind of village that you had when you were growing up in the really formative years of your life. It like the realization will hit me every once in a while. I'm like, oh, if I get like married next year, am I even gonna have like 50 people at my wedding? I don't know. Am I gonna have even a bridal shower? I don't know. Yes, I will.
That is the caveat.
But I will say too, like I said, the older that you get, the more like you realize that the things that people want to celebrate, like the expectation, not necessarily that anybody has ever said that to me or said this to me, is like, oh, you're just going to be a spinster. You're not really worth like investing in this way type of a thing.
Yeah, well, I'll be there loud.
Thank you.
Very loud.
You're invited.
Yes. Invited myself.
Yeah. She sent her own invitation. But community can. So I mean, the biggest thing about what you guys are talking about is the community base, and I love that you said as you know you go in age older, the community gets smaller, but the intentionality, the growth of that, right? And community is so that you can either heal or deepen like the feeling of not feeling lonely and feeling like there is purpose. But then there's the fighting of isolation, right? Because some, I'm not going to say some of us, but even people in marriage sometimes can fight this, is trying to isolate yourself. Because when life doesn't feel fair, when it's not going the way you thought it should be going. By now, this should have already happened. Like, what's going on? That was the right one, and now it's broken.
Right.
Now I'm just going to isolate myself. How do you personally fight isolation when it creeps in?
So for me, it's funny. I actually really wanted to isolate, but the path that the Lord has called me on with my job specifically, it did not let me. Like, he did not let me. He's like, absolutely not. You're not going to be a hermit.
Yeah.
Sorry about it. Even though you want to, that's okay. You have to be in front of people.
Yeah.
But there are times, outside of work and after work, where I think the question that somebody could ask themselves is, am I isolating myself because of, like, what you said, like, this is unfair and this, that, and the other? Or do I really just need time alone with God? Because there can be some times where I'm like, you know what? I need all the noise to kind of quiet down, all the responsibility to kind of quiet down. I really just want to spend time in his presence, just alone, me and him. I feel like it's always at 10 to 11 at night on my property on my kidless nights, and that's where he, like, really gets me the most. So maybe asking, like, which one is it? But if it's just to be, like, kind of in a pity party, if you will, I think finding, and it sounds so cliche, but a hobby. I picked up archery after my divorce.
Let's go.
so cool.
Wow.
Thank you. It's so fun.
We have Katniss Everdeen over here.
Yeah, so it's a recurve bow, not a compound. Compound is cheating. I'll just put that out there.
Every Polk County person already knows.
I don't, but I'm here
It's
for the
okay. It's okay.
But I think finding like genuinely a hobby that you can enjoy that will get you into a community of people. I have met some amazing people in the archery community outside of the church community, and I have one friend of mine. He's 82, and he's so sweet. He taught me everything I know about shooting my bow, and he has so many cool stories and so much wisdom to offer. But I think just putting yourself out there in that way could be beneficial.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Archery.
I'm not an archer.
She's like, no.
I want to say it was a year and a half ago, my very best friend in the whole entire world moved to Nashville, and it was really, 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 I'm getting emotional. Stop.
No, that's okay.
It was really difficult for me. Because I went from having literally my best friend in the whole entire world living right next to me, and we would do everything together, to all of a sudden she's like 500 miles away. And when I found out when she was moving, I really, really made it a point to not isolate myself, and really, really made it a point to invest in some of the relationships that I had already had established, so that when that transition happened, it wouldn't be as catastrophic as it would have been if it was suddenly. So I have a book club. Shout out to the Stoop Kids. Love you. And we get together like once a month. We serve together on the tech team. We do all of these things together. We go to the bookstore. We eat at Burger 21. It's great. I have a friend that I have dinner with every Sunday and every Tuesday.
She's excited about it.
I love it.
And that has really kept me from like staying very by myself. I think it's so important. And I said this to you before, and I did remember it.
Yay.
When Kelsey first left, shout out Kelsey, love you. I didn't say your name before, I don't think. But when Kelsey first left, it was really, really difficult. And sometimes we think that these relationships that we have need to be incredibly deep and wide, but I had a neighbor, and I'm not going to say where I live because I don't want to get serial killed. But Becky Rose lived by me, and I want to say it was the day after. She texted me and said, "Hey, I know that today is just a really hard day for you. Just wanted to text you and make sure that you were okay." I love Becky. I would die for Becky. She's the best. But we're not like besties in the way that we like talk every day. And I think sometimes we get it confused. Like isolation means you need, or not isolation. Not isolating yourself means you need like really deep connections and friendships and whatever, when sometimes it's just like the realization that you have a neighbor that cares about you.
Yeah.
So
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, that's real good. And I think that's a way to tell people how to find those healthy communities. Because like you said earlier on, sometimes you can find unhealthy communities. And in the space you're in, which I love, you said if you're still feeling lonely and alone together, it's probably not good. You need to find your time with God.
Yes.
And break from that. But as well as you find people that if they're not deep enough, they're not worth my time and I don't want to listen to, but there are neighbors that can encourage you in the moment you don't know. And God would use to get you out of that funk and things that are going on in life that happens. Separation. Life is moving on, and you feel like sometimes your life is not moving on as everybody else is, but those right voices at the right time community can really help you kind of heal so that you can see.
I think just feeling seen, like the instance with your neighbor, I think it's just like, oh, someone sees me, someone sees the season I'm in. And I think that what can feed wanting to isolate ourselves is if you believe the lie that you're invisible.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think if anyone, like you said, like a neighbor or even someone in passing or a friend that you've already had an established relationship with that knows there's a specific day of the year that's difficult for you, like for me, my divorce day, just reaching out and being like, hey, I see you. I think that can really help break the desire to isolate for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, because like you said, you could sit in your own pity party. You can sit in there, but one word being seen, I see you, can change everything. It's like, okay, you know what, I can do better. So, but I want to talk about, real quick, shifting specifically about the role of the church. And I think that's a big part in anyone's journey, that the church can see you in whatever walk of life you're in. But the church can be quick to ship people together.
I love how you said that. I love that.
Because singleness is often looked as a negative thing sometimes. And it may be intentional. It may not be intentional. Good intentions out of it, but sometimes good intentions not always the best thing, right? Just because you think it's good intention doesn't mean it's necessary for the journey. So the question is, what can churches and small groups do better to support and truly shepherd people that are living a single life?
So I have some very strong opinions about that.
Let's go.
I love this. Okay, what are they?
I should have started with that question.
No, it's okay. So my honest opinion, especially because like I've been on both sides of the fence, is we don't need to rush single people.
Come on.
We don't need to rush single people. And I know, what I will say is this, here's the grace. I think it is from good intentions. And I'm just going to throw this out there. And if you need to edit it out,
it'll stay.
But I think they're just like, they're worried about the temptation of sin in singleness. Like, I'm just going to be real. I'm going to be honest. The church is very worried, especially with our young folks, right, of the temptation of sin and being single. So it's like, okay, what can we do to fast track them to marriage? So then that way that's not an issue. But I think that can be detrimental in so many ways. Number one, it ties our personhood, our value to getting married. And then that feeds the whole, the insecurity and all that stuff, which is not good. But number two, from my chair with what I experienced, it does not give the individuals time to really discern if they're being equally yoked.
Wow.
And might sound a little outlandish, but somebody attending church is a beginning. That does not mean that you are equally yoked to that person spiritually.
Right.
And it's not a judgment. It's I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they're in this house. But what I experienced in my previous relationship, and I actually have compassion for my ex-husband. He felt like he had to make me happy. And then that wasn't, fostering a real relationship with him and God either. So it wasn't fair to him. And then it wasn't fair to me in the long run because of things that happened. So I think that it's not, teaching people to have discernment and really slowing down and evaluating, what does their fruit look like? And again, not judgment, not condemnation. We want them here. Yeah. That's great. I'm glad they're here. I hope, that the Lord really does a work in their heart, but in my experience, if that person feels pressured to go, it is never going to be lasting, and it can lead to so much pain. So I think it's like a paradox. The church pushing that too quickly or rushing can actually 10, 15, 20 years down the road lead to even more pain and hurt. And then sometimes there's children involved and when that happens. So I just hope that there can be a movement in the church world, not necessarily this church. This church is amazing, and I know I'm biased, but I love this church. No, but I hope in the church world we can be less afraid of talking about singleness and the temptation of sin during that time. How can we support people or shepherd people in that season without trying to rush them out of it?
That's good.
You know, so that's my
good.
very strong opinions about that.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
I can use my life as a real life example. I don't care. I'll put it on blast. Don't worry. I won't name drop you guys. There's been times where I've had damage in my own life because I've had people come up to me and say, hey, the Lord is saying that in the next year you're going to get married. And I was dating somebody at the time, and we broke up the next week.
Oh no. Oh my God.
That is like okay, great. Does that mean that I did something wrong? Does that mean that God is mad at me? Does that mean that I missed this opportunity? Or does that mean that this person was just wrong? And when you're younger, it's not that person's just wrong. It's a person that's like, the Lord said this, and you want to believe that. So I would say, number one, if somebody tells you that that's your prophetic word, you better be sure. Because that does a lot of damage if you're not right.
It's confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses, so that's just the one. Just saying.
And I also agree with sometimes we rush things too much. There's been times where I've gone on dates with people and then literally the very next day, not date, the next day it's like, I heard you went out with so and so when's the wedding? And I'm sitting here like, I just met this guy last week, we just got pancakes the other day. I don't even know if we're compatible or not. But the more jokes that are made or the more things that are said that way, it gets really difficult because you start questioning yourself. It's like, should I get married to this person? And then it takes the personal evaluation about whether or not you're even compatible away to, I need to do this because this is what God wants or society wants or whoever. And I'm still sitting there I don't even know if you think I'm funny.
I don't even know. And I would say the third one is I've had people try to set me up with other people, and that's great, thanks, love you so much. But there's 2 sides to this coin. Number one, if you don't really actually know the person you're setting them up with, maybe don't do that. And then number 2, if your reasoning for setting them up with you is just because you're both single, maybe take that into account too, because I, again, I'm only speaking from my own experience. I can't speak for everyone. I have had people say, you should go out with this person because you're both nerdy or you're both whatever. And I'm like, okay, so you think that the only thing that I have to offer is that I'm good at tech stuff. Or you think that this. So it's not just a reflection on what you don't want me to be alone. It's this is what you think of me as a person too. And that's correct. No.
It's all good intention. I'm not saying that anybody's I'm sitting here with a little villain hat on going you know what I really want to do? I want to make this girl mad and say that she's just a nerd.
But complacency and carelessness with words can be just as damaging as malice.
Exactly.
So I see what you're saying.
So I would say if we're talking about singulars as a singular person, maybe evaluate those things.
Correct.
Just think about it in your own life. If we're talking about the church as a whole, I would say just just don't forget about us, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
like,
so many like events for families or marrieds or whatever, and there's not a lot for single people, and I think it gets a little bit like weird sometimes because it's like,
Yeah.
am I just showing up to a singles mixer or whatever?
Yeah,
But,
and like maybe even with that, at least from my seat, and you can, disagree,
it's
but
okay.
single events or not for like the church not forgetting about the singles, not with the intent of like, let's do this so they can find their partner.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Matchmaking.
Matchmaking.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I think it is good intentions.
Yes, absolutely.
like she's saying, but we're a whole person. We're a whole
true.
person. And the entire value of our life is not reduced to marriage. And there's a lot of us that do desire to be married. I mean, I desire to be, in a godly marriage one day, but I want that to be a piece of my life, not my entire identity.
Yeah.
And I think with what I'm hearing from you too, it's like we can almost get just like reduced to our singlehood instead of like, I'm a whole person with a lot to offer.
Right.
And the Lord can use me by myself. And then one day he'll use me differently in a marriage or in addition to, or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what I get to.
Yeah, and not every good intention needs to be acted on.
So true.
All right, pray about it first,
Yep.
and let
Me
God
too.
do the action. you know,
Not just you guys, me too.
yeah, for all sides.
Yeah.
Let's
Right.
pray and let God do the rest of the work. And then just preach the gospel and help people in communities and just be a part of that. Like it's just how it should be, right? Yeah. And I love that you said, when we start shipping people, and I love that.
That was your word.
That was your words. You
Okay.
said that. Shipping.
As I said, we're shipping people around and matchmaking and eHarmony stuff and all that connection. I think it does come with the intention of, man, I don't want them to fall and sin, and now you're putting,
or that you don't want them to be alone.
correct,
Right.
or that they
Yeah.
don't want them to. I really want them to be happy, but again, you're forcing people into something that can either be detrimental, can be painful, traumatic. We don't know what the life experience is from the other person. What have they haven't healed that, and we talked about in the marriage podcast last month, where we've got to think about that. If we don't deal with our baggages outside of marriage, we're bringing more baggage on top of the other baggage that comes to marriage.
there.
Exactly. Life is not going to say, well, let me wait till you're done and figure out your baggage, and then I'll drop the rest of it. Nope.
No.
It's going to go from the very beginning, and what you haven't dealt with, it's going to maximize the problems you have, which causes division, causes anger, causes frustration, causes all these things that now we're like, well, the church matched me with this person. Now we're married. What's going on? Why are we broken? And why is this getting worse? Well, we didn't take in consideration, is there healing that needed to happen in their singlehood?
Right. And with what you're saying too, it made me think of Psalm 127, where and I'm going to paraphrase it, but basically, like, if we try to build the house without the Lord, it's in vain. If we labor without the Lord, it's in vain. And it says that he knows how to bless his beloved even as they sleep.
Yeah.
So we don't really have to like help God's plans. We can just have that role of praying, like you said, and being like, is this really what God is saying? Is this really like the prophetic word that God is giving? Because if we're trying to build it in our own human willpower because of fear of stumbling in sin, or I just want them to be happy, I don't want them to be alone, that house could fall, it could crumble.
It's correct. And I think when you were talking about that, it brought me back to where there was a fight that Paul addressed, because the church was fighting who was greater, Paul or Apollos. And then Paul was like, hold on. One sows, one water. Wait, no, one sows. Wait, what are we going?
Yeah, one sows, one waters.
There we go.
Yeah,
there we go.
go.
I could not think. I'm thinking
I got
water.
you, don't
Thank
worry.
you. See,
Yeah.
I gave you a scripture for that. So. But yeah, one sows, one waters, and God makes the growth happen. I think sometimes when we don't see things happening the way we thought it should, then we're going to force the hand in anything in life. What we've learned, if we force anything in our own agenda, it's going to crash and burn anyways.
Yes.
So I think we need to just allow whoever's walking the singleness journey, just be a part of the community outside of the journey, not a secondary, not by the way, you guys are over here. No, it's a unified walk in different perspectives, different walks of life, different conflicts, different situations, but we're all walking to the same goal, whether you're married here or you're not, but we'll be in heaven. That all changes, and we can get theologically into that. We won't go on that because we'll go for another hour on that. But I want to end with this because I really want to speak to everyone that's watching that's single, and really leave it with an encouragement, because again, it can get lonely and it can get difficult, and mentally it can be draining, and you're always waiting and feels like, man, God left me out to dry. I'm just here. If you guys can just let someone know, what hope would you offer to singles listening today who feel unseen, who feel behind, or feel discouraged?
So my biggest thing that I would say is that you have to first really believe in your heart, not just believe intellectually, about how God loves you, just you individually. And if you can't accept that, because I've been in a place of, really, oh no, it's easy for me to tell other people that he loves them, but it's really hard for me to accept his unconditional love. For me, that really bats away all the despair that can come when you're really feeling that loneliness. So it is possible to be in singlehood and have joy and have pockets of happiness because you're rooted in God's love for you. And I will admit that was something that I raged against when I first became single. I was like, I don't want to hear that. Like, I know that, and that's a cliche, and really just was like not wanting to accept it. But once you can really accept God's unconditional love for you, it makes walking this path feel almost purposeful and less painful, because it can get painful from time to time.
I think that just know that you're not by yourself. I was really, really lucky growing up that I had a lot of examples of women in my life that got married really late in life or didn't get married at all. And I got to see how fulfilling and beautiful their life was without a partner. The reality of the situation is it might not happen. And I know that that's a really, really tough pill to swallow. We all want to hope and we all want to believe that it is going to happen for us, but just really, really try your best not to be mad at God. You don't want to live your whole entire life being mad because something didn't happen and miss out on the rest of your life. Because there's so much beauty in this world. There's so many people that you get to meet. I think specifically about like, not to bring like whether or not people get pregnant into this, but like if I don't get married, I probably won't have kids, but I'm incredibly blessed to have friends and family that their kids are like my kids. So it might not look the way that you want it to, but there are people around you that still make your life worth living and still make it fulfilling.
No, I think that's really, really true. And I'll share a little bit more on that too. With the whole, it might not look how you think it will. My dad is a testimony that you can find a godly marriage at an advanced age, and he is so madly in love. They're so madly in love, him and my stepmom, and he met her when he was 55. Like, they both were in their 50s.
Look at that. There's hope in any age.
Yeah, I know. And like, honestly, because I'm 29, so to see him so just happy now, and he found it so late, it gave me hope too, with like the waiting game, because that's the questions that can kind of go around in our head. Is like, is it ever going to happen, or is it going to happen when I'm older than I thought I wanted to be, or will it not happen at all? And these are questions I think that can bounce around in our head, but God can surprise us.
Yeah.
He can surprise us in any season
Correct.
of life. But finding that fulfillment in the meantime, you're absolutely right, because I think too of how the disciples in the New Testament, they were arguing over, they had only brought one loaf of bread. And Jesus was like, have you forgotten? Like, do you remember feeding the 5,000 and all the baskets that were left? Yeah. And like, have you seriously forgotten so easily what I have done? So I think holding on to what God is doing in your life, even apart from that, apart from partnership, it can really ground you whenever those swirling thoughts start to happen.
And I think Paul said it great. He learned how to live content whatever season he was in, whether it was in jail, whether it was preaching and sending letters to churches, and in his singleness. He found content, because content is not, whatever, this is my life. No, it's, I have Jesus, so that's enough. Right? So if you're listening today, you're single, I want to let you know that you're not behind, you're not broken, you're not forgotten. God can use you right where you're at right now and prepare you for whatever the future looks like and however he wants to bless you when it comes to that moment. But thank you guys again for sharing your story and your heart on this topic. And thank you for being here. We'll see you next episode.
Yeah.